Greetings, citizens! I am FailureToReport, welcoming you all to a new year. I hope you all had an incredible holiday season and a safe, get drunk and tell yourself you're really going to change this time new year. It's been a hot minute since our last trip down Citizen Lane, and I apologize for the delay, but we're back. It's a new year and a whole new bag of promises for the best damn space sim ever. So let's talk about it. In December, CIG published a new letter from the chairman with all sorts of goodies to keep the faithful content, and unsurprisingly, it pretty much did exactly that. In this letter from the chairman, Chris goes over all the accomplishments of 2018, which I'll give CIG, OCS was a huge one for the game, but the majority of all of these promises were from 2016, and they were supposed to have come with the release of 3.0 in 2017. So, while the huge performance increase brought on by OCS is amazing, StarCitizen PU is still playing catch-up to Chris's promises of finished content from 2 years and counting. Is that a huge deal that means the end of the world for StarCitizen? Absolutely not. But it is important to maintain perspective when CIG tries to highlight progress as, "See? Look at everything that we've done this year! It's going great!" Chris then continues onwards to talk about the recently released Squadron 42 roadmap, sprinkling the usual disclaimers of, "We did our best to estimate completion times, but the same caveats will apply to the Squadron 42 roadmap as they do with the PU one." Which, if you've been a backer for more than 3 years, you know means not super great. If there's one thing CIG will go down in history for, besides their anti-backer marketing practices, it's the completely meaningless road mapping. StarCitizen PU has had roadmaps and timelines for years now, and time after time, CIG has demonstrated that those projections are no more reliable than trying to catch a baseball thrown through a wood chipper. You might get bits and pieces of it, but you're never going to catch even close to what went into it, and you're going to need a whole lot more balls getting tossed through there before you can grab up enough content to say that you're holding a complete ball. So, while Chris claims the intent is to be feature complete by the end of 2019, with alpha taking up the first 6 months of 2020, and then beta afterwards, I'd like to take a moment to look back on Chris and his credibility with Squadron 42. For any of you longtime backers, you will remember Chris promising Squadron 42 Chapter 1 would be releasing in 2015. But after missing that entirely, because most good development CEOs say, "We're wrapping up our product for a release next year," but somehow have no idea that they aren't even a year away from completion, we were then left with the 2016 promises. Yeah, that one didn't pan out so great, but don't worry, it's time to get damage control mode on.
Leadpipe asks, have you as the community team been able to play through a single mission on Squadron 42 yet? I have been able to, but I have chosen not to.
I have played through every mission because I come from QA and it was my job to do so.
Well, hey, if reliable and trustworthy Jared has been able to play them all and Tyler's knocked them all out because it was his job as QA, we're surely on track to answer the call in 2017. Right, guys? Two years after the first promised release year, janky cherry-picked vertical slice has pre-alpha plastered all over it. That doesn't bode super well. Maybe 2018 is the year.
I'm your new wingman, sir.
The coil. Local scum use it for cover to launch attacks. This is their turf, so move when I'm moving. Keep your eyes open.
Alright, so we got some retouched graphics on the vertical slice and some new fancy cinematic trailer shots. And this trailer is important because, like Chris says in his letter from the chairman, CIG thrives on their community-driven viral marketing. and virally market the citizens did with this trailer. Look how far it is! Look at these amazing shots! Squadron 42 is going to release within a year! It's important to remember that CIG is an industry leader in making cinematics and trailers that have zero correlation to actual in-game progress here. You can still to this day look at dozens of cinematics that CIG has made for marketing different ships or Squadron 42 years ago and see that they are just that, cinematics meant to drive hype and market funding. Remember the Idris patrolling the Odin system in the 2017 vertical slice? The tone? So serious. The mood? Meant to pull you in as they show off the big ship with its interiors and how far along the game is? Let's take a look at that one more time.
Alpha Group Actual, this is the UEES Stanton updating status. We are nearing our patrol position in Odin.
Now, that whole scene might feel familiar to you if you're a longtime backer, and it should, because if we rewind to 2012, we see CIG has had one tool mastercrafted since the launch of this project, using cinematics to sell a sense of progress and completion that isn't actually there. Want to talk about the Gamescom demo with the sandworm?
Vince is undeterred by the impending sandstorm. Incoming sandstorm. That looks.
Ah yes, I remember the quality sandstorms of Daymar that we have today in 2019 versus what was shown way back here in 2016, or the stealth FPS combat. Oh wait. Shit. Well, this is kind of embarrassing. Or it would be if these tools of CIG's trade didn't do exactly what they were designed to do. Market a sense of completion that isn't there to feed backers who need that high of what things might be one day, or to pull in potential new backers who don't know that these materials CIG so readily shows off as this is where we are today, invest now, are just marketing material. My point here is actually pretty simple. Chris might have finally fed the backers a Squadron 42 roadmap, but if you're not chugging the Kool-Aid, you should be taking it with the same enormous grain of salt that you take with the very often inaccurate or last-minute revamped and shuffled StarCitizen roadmap. This is to say nothing about the fact that the Squadron 42 roadmap is littered with very major tech hurdles and milestones that make the last 6 years of what has been accomplished in the StarCitizen PU look like 3 days of playing around in the CryEngine editor. In less than a year, CIG is suddenly going to manage to nail down a revamped flight model, fix their garbage FPS ballistics, every form of shader and lighting improvements or implementations, finally develop NPC AI that doesn't feel like it's from 2002, finish that physics grid that they've been talking about for years, come up with mission logic, new flight UIs, add in gas clouds and volumetric fog, as well as a handful of graphical detail improvements, while also increasing their client performance. Alright, sure, why not? Maybe once Squadron 42 finishes up, Chris can crowdfund peace in the Middle East too, because evidently he's basically Jesus. Keep in mind, all the things I just randomly rattled off there, that isn't even half of the stuff that needs to be completed on the Squadron 42 roadmap for a 2020 release. There's core ship functions, there are ships that have been in dev for years but are still only partway through their completion. There's a lot, okay? Let's leave it at that, or we'll literally be here for an hour. And this leads into the next bit of Chris's letter focus. Having a great game is only half the battle. As we look towards the release of Squadron 42, we have been acutely aware that having a AAA game that matches the biggest single-player games out there only goes so far if no one knows about it. First off, the majority of the gaming world definitely knows about it, Chris. You've made headlines for years over your ability to pull funding from people before you had a product, as well as the countless missed deadlines and issues with the development. The people who don't know about StarCitizen are the people who aren't going to buy it anyways because it isn't their kind of game. This isn't even getting into the kind of rig people will need to run it either. as the majority of gamers aren't running anything like those nice backer-funded gaming rigs that you send out to your content creator minions to viral market the good word. Secondly, saying you have a AAA game that matches the biggest single-player games out there? What are you basing that on? Size of playable area? Because that's not even accurate either. There are plenty of single-player games that have more playable space. So, content? Because at every turn, Squadron 42 looks to be turning more and more into an on-the-rails theme park single-player game. So, between what seems to be more and more like it's going to be a theme park of do these missions, move on, and you're also trimming out that all juicy co-op multiplayer drop-in, drop-out that you originally sold Squadron 42 with, and I'm sure there are plenty of backers who are fine with that, but it further takes away from these insane claims that you constantly attach to both of these projects. Anyhow, Chris goes on to say, other companies tackle this issue by partnering with those big bad evil publishers. You guys hate those, right? I'm not in favor of putting my destiny in the hands of a third party. The last time I did that, they got mad at me for messing up the budget and the timelines constantly, and they pushed me off the project so that they could release a well-received game. So, because we don't want those evil publishers, I've taken out loans to cover the development, and we're also taking on $46 million investment from a private party to cover marketing. Yeah, to cover marketing. We're at least 2 years out from even touching beta for Squadron 42, but I've decided, hey, we'll go ahead and secure this investment to start marketing it so there will be more people around for the next time we have to delay Squadron 42 again. For marketing. Right. So, in a daring turn of events, Cloud Imperium published their complete financials from 2012 to 2017, and this was something I really wanted to get into after the Sunk Cost Galaxy stream, but real life kind of pulled me away, and I didn't get the time I needed to come back until pretty recently. First and foremost, I want to say that I'm utterly flattered by all of you guys who suggested that the financials were published because of my Don't Buy This Game Yet video, but the reason this move happened is classic public relations. You see, roughly a month ago, someone caught that Cloud Imperium Games had sold off 18,500 shares of the project to a company called Infotrade Group Corporation. This caught traction because of two things. First and foremost was that CIG was taking a crowd-funded game and selling off shares to a third party. Well, I mean, one that wasn't one of the 20 shell companies that Chris owns for StarCitizen. But secondly, that the purchasing company was based out of the ever-popular tax haven, the British Virgin Islands. Without jumping into the conspiracy rabbit hole, this was a big deal because it came out in December that this transaction had occurred, but the actual shares were sold without a word back in May of 2018. Suddenly, this info was circulating not just in the evil refunder circles, but also out in the open where normal backers would see it. I fully believe that the reason CIG published their financials up until 2017, accompanying an announcement that they had sold to a third-party investor for marketing, was due to this information finally coming out. Remember, they took $46 million to market less than halfway through 2018 for their game that will be a miracle if it arrives in beta by 2020. So, you want to spend $46 million marketing a beta. Alrighty, you're the boss, Chris. Whatever you say. Moving on. I've seen a lot of backers hailing the published financials as a, see, look how amazing StarCitizen is now, despite the fact that the financials CIG chose to share don't seem to be a complete listing, such as their standing loans. It still shows CIG staying in the black by roughly $5 million in 2017. To put that in perspective, the operating costs for this project on a monthly basis are estimated to be anywhere from $3 to $5 million, depending on what you factor. That means if funding for CIG goes bad, they had a month to cover before hitting the red. But, don't tell the fanatics circle jerking, alright? They really need this moment. The reason I bring up CIG's ability to float a month is that they chose to release their financials running up to 2017. StarCitizen was doing pretty well in 2017. There was no end of hype for the massive StarCitizen 3.0 release that was due to drop with the biggest Jesus patch ever promised. There was sales pitching that Squadron 42 was going to be coming in that year. 2017 was inevitably the calm before the storm for StarCitizen, because starting 2018, things didn't really go so great. You see, 2018 was heralded in by the release of StarCitizen 3.0. With its atrocious performance, it became mocked far and wide for playing similar to a PowerPoint presentation in frame rate. Launched with not even a quarter of the features that CIG had said were completed, but just needed another year to polish to Chris's standards, even though when they did land, it was some of the most unplayable, buggy, broken state the game had ever been in. During this time, faith in the project was shaken from the 45 backers to the tens of thousands invested whales. Backers ran for the refund line, only to be met with, "We're sorry that you feel you want to refund, but with the release of StarCitizen 3.0, we've released the first stage of our finished product." And for any silly backer who wasn't content with that legal line, they were met with the queue of waiting for the refund specialist to contact them. Go ahead, watch the comments. I guarantee there are people who have been waiting on a refund request since January 2018. Good thing CIG are so mature about refunds that they delete your account once you request one, but you've got to wait a year counting on that refund specialist to get to you, huh? The point here is that 2018 was not a good year for Star Citizen. It started with a massive disappointment with the launch of 3.0, saw many backers trying to refund, and then those who were still interested in sticking with the project were met with an increased anti-backer marketing practices as CIG looked for new ways to pick up the funding slack. Then, on top of it, Crytek went and dropped a little lawsuit on the whole thing to add even more uncertainty to the whole mess, which saw even more backers moving towards a mentality of, you know what, I like the pitch, I believe in the dream, I want the finished game, but I'm going to hold off on spending any new money for right now. So, well before OCS came into the persistent universe and saved the day with those great performance gains, here comes a third-party investor to offer CIG a lifeline to ride out a little bit longer in hopes of focusing the majority of the team on finishing off Squadron 42 to a marketable state as quickly as possible. So, when people ask me what I think about the CIG financials, I think that they were struggling with a very bad year. They weren't nearly as well funded as Chris kept saying they were back in 2016, and as a result, 2018 hit them where it hurt. And so Chris went ahead and grabbed himself a third-party investment to keep the project's head above water. I think the sudden need to take on an outside investor is one step closer to having a publisher, and I think the move to find large cash infusion perfectly explains the actions of CIG's marketing team over the last year, getting more and more predatory with things like LTI warbond only and new limited quantity ship sales with a focus on purchasing warbond sales only. The recent events in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's sudden snap focus over the PU perfectly fits with what a lot of critics have been saying. CRG are incredible at marketing a dream, while Chris's overreaching ambition and lack of anyone to oversee it keeps driving the project along, but at the cliff's edge. I have every confidence that we are going to see Squadron 42 in some godforsaken quality similar to Star Citizen 3.0 plop down probably sometime 2020. CIG absolutely needs to finally deliver something, or things are going to actually start getting very grim in the verse. So honestly, I'm happy with the state of CIG's financials. This might be the slap in the face that finally puts a fire under Chris's ass to stop expanding and start finalizing things. Anyways, I am FailureToReport, and this is good for Star Citizen. Actually, I'd like to take a minute to talk about you, viewer. The channel recently passed 5,500 subs, as well as over 1 million views, and none of that would have ever been possible without you guys. When I started the channel, it was to talk about the issues I felt like nobody else was really talking about. A few years later, and when our channel drops a video, it gets more views and thus outreach than even the biggest Star Citizen affiliates get per video. So, even though we might be suppressed on the official forums or the subreddit, our concerns and criticisms do get heard, and it's because of you, not me. You guys have made this channel what it is today, and it's mind-blowing. So, with that in mind, please, if there are issues you want to voice and get attention to, please feel free to leave a comment, and I really do try to read them all unless I'm tied up with real life, because remember, this is a hobby for me, it's not a job. But better yet, take the plunge, join us in the Discord community. While I don't want this channel to turn into a job, I do want to support the discussion and help ensure that every spectrum of the Star Citizen backer gets a voice, even those who are critical of the project, but genuinely just want it to do better. So, from the bottom of my heart, I really cannot thank you all enough for the support over the years. Whether you're a new channel regular or you've been around since I was complaining about turrets in the Vanguard every week. You guys are the reason this channel has become what it is, and why I enjoy hanging out with you all so much. So, I hope you all have an incredible 2019, and I look forward to meeting more of you in the verse or on any upcoming titles of 2019. Stay safe, and I will see you next time, citizens.